Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the number one podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. I'm your host, Steve from Acres of Timber. Each week, we feature various wood business owners and entrepreneurs from around the globe. We share their stories, paths, insights so that you can network, learn, and grow your own wood business. Thank you so much for listening. Now enjoy the episode. The Woodpreneur podcast is proudly sponsored by Acres CRM. Acres CRM is the wood industry's only customer relationship management software dedicated to helping you automate your sales and marketing so that you can focus on serving your customers and growing your business. You can visit acresoftimber.com to learn more and to schedule a demo. Once again, that's acresoftimber.com. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Steve Larosiliere. Today's guest is Austin Waldo, who is the managing director of the Austin School of Furniture. How you doing, Austin?
I'm doing good. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Excited.
Cool. So I came across you because I met somebody that went to your school.
Great.
He took a class, Chance. He's in Columbus. You know him?
The name sounds familiar.
His full name, Chance Nathanson.
Okay.
Do you know him?
Recognize the full name. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, and he told me, he was like, oh, because I was going to Austin like a month ago, and he was like, oh, I went to Austin last year and I loved it. And I took this great class. And so that's how I kind of came across you. Why don't you tell everybody about the School of Furniture? I'd love to hear the origin story.
Yeah. You want the short version or the long version?
Give me the medium version.
All right. I figured that out. Well, so to kind of give a better origin story, a little bit about me, I have been woodworking and furniture making pretty much my whole life, from a hobbyist to semi-professional level. But professionally, my background's in marketing. So that's what I went to school for and got a degree and worked for marketing agencies and tech companies for a long time. So woodworking was always kind of what I wanted to do. And then marketing was, what I'm doing to pay the bills. So trying to spend all of my free time around woodworking was kind of where I was. My wife and I were living in Colorado, and we moved to Austin together, and was like, all right, I want to get more into woodworking. So as soon as I get to Austin, I'm going to look up a woodworking club and see what they're all about. And found a club that's no longer around and went to the club meeting, and it was pretty terrible. As a furniture maker, I was bored. The guy next to me fell asleep. Nobody came and greeted me and introduced themselves. And I was pretty disappointed with my first experience of this club, and was like, yeah, that's not what I'm all about. I want to meet more woodworkers and be much more social around it. So I took some classes at the community college, met some great folks that were in there, and we started brainstorming, what do we like to do? Well, we like good craft beer and we like woodworking. So let's start a club that's about that. So I started the Woodworking Social Club, which is, a group of people that like to drink beer and talk about woodworking, and ran that for a couple years while I used that group as kind of a sounding board to hear what they were looking for, what problems they were having. And my marketing and entrepreneurial mind starts running. It's like, okay, there's a demand for woodworking classes that the city of Austin, which has traditionally been one of the fastest growing cities in the nation, is not providing. So from my classes at the community college, an amazing furniture maker named Philip Morley. And so I started talking to him and, hey, what would a school in Austin look like? Would you be interested in teaching a class? Who else can we get to teach? And so I started talking to furniture makers where we found there's a demand, and okay, here's how we can supply it. I think it's ready to go. So we'll just jump into it and start a school and see how it goes. And so I started the school in 2018, and we had about 261 square feet. So just a couple benches, hand tools only, no machines, and have grown from there to a little bit over 5,000 square feet with multiples of everything, machines, and can do classes of 12 students.
Wow. What would those first couple years look like? How did you get the word out, and who are the people that came to you?
Yeah. It was a lot of fun, because when you don't have to worry about money, it makes things much more enjoyable. So the school was so small that the expenses were just non-existent. It's like $100 for rent. Just we were renting a small space. So we were really all about experimenting. And I think that period was really helpful, where it was, let's try a class and put it out there and see how it goes. And if it doesn't go well, it doesn't really matter. And so we would talk to an instructor. What do you want to teach? Okay, let's do that. Okay, that didn't work. Let's pivot. Let's talk to those people. Why did they not sign up? What did they not like about the class? And so we started developing classes that people really liked. And then the word of mouth of them liking those classes brought their friends in. And then, of course, the club that I was running was a great way to find people. And at that same time, Philip started to get much more popular on YouTube and Instagram, where he was really helping to support the school from a social standpoint. And then the school, started getting a little higher, where our own social is helping out. And we started getting bigger mail lists. And so in this kind of really fun, light and easy experimentation phase is when we really started to build up our own marketing funnel to the point where we were growing pretty rapidly and finding lots of people in Austin that wanted to take classes.
That's great. And so you found that there was a lot of local people that like you met a need in the local market?
Yeah. Yeah. We probably went 2 years before we ever brought in a guest teacher. So when I say guest and teacher, that means they're not from Austin. We're flying them in, putting them up in a hotel or an Airbnb and paying them to teach a class for 5, 6, 7 days. So the first 2 years with all local instructors, they just drive 10 minutes, teach an evening class or a weekend class, and everybody's taking the classes in Austin or surrounding area.
That's great. What were the most popular classes?
Well, I think the most popular is probably just the general introduction to hand tools. That's still something that we do. And I find that it's a very demystifying class where a lot of people have used cordless tools and skill saws and chop saws at home, but they haven't ever used a hand plane or a chisel. And so they want to take, their furniture making or woodworking up a level and start incorporating hand tools. And so a really easy, low barrier to entry, come try out some of the hand tools we have, maybe buy your own afterwards class is really popular. So we actually have that coming up in 2 days this weekend.
Who were the types of people that book classes like that? Like, could you describe them just like generally, like who they were?
Yeah. We basically have kind of 3 personas of people that we're going after.
In marketing speak, they call that avatars.
And it is the one group would be the stereotypical woodworker, the older retiree that's got time and money. And, they're at this point still the largest demographic, but the
boomers, like my father-in-law.
Of course.
I love my boomers. Yeah. They got money and they got time.
They do. Yeah. And that's great. And we love those, but we try to make the school very fun and being in Austin very young and more progressive on how we market classes and doing different things where we're getting all kinds of people from, we go down to 18 for adults, but a younger, more diverse demographic in all of our classes. So then you get the kind of millennial upper 20s to 40 range that are professionals, usually in the tech industry in Austin, that are coming to take classes and get away from their keyboards. And
they want to put their stress and work out their mental therapy with woodworking. That's me.
Yeah. And they're great. And then the smallest percentage is those that want to get into furniture making as a profession, and usually younger or older, and they're having a midlife crisis and want to get away from what they're doing and completely change. And so those folks are a little bit more interested in something like our intensive program, which is a full-time training program.
That's a 3-month thing with Up by Philip?
Correct. Yeah.
That's cool. That's very cool. What's been the challenge so far?
Well, I think the challenge has always been more personal for me, where it's related to time. How much time do I have to put towards the school? So at first, when I had a full-time job, it was evenings and weekends, and all of that time was spent towards running the school. And so the school was really only able to grow somewhat relative to how much time I had to put towards it. And now where I'm doing woodworking full-time, the school is 90% of my time and 10% of my income. So it's a balance between I need to spend a lot of time working on the school, whatever that might be, but I also need to do some work to make some money. So right now it's definitely time spending on everything from bookkeeping to, marketing classes and running classes, teaching classes, cleaning the shop, whatever it might be. So that's kind of where we're at right now, is in terms of maximizing the use of the school while balancing my employment.
So I became friendly with Martin Goebel. You know him? Goebel Furniture?
Yes.
in
Yeah.
St.
I
Louis.
stopped by the school a couple months ago.
Oh, he did. Funny. Yeah. He's like a furniture maker. Like he went to like RISD. He's like studied with people that study with Nakashima. And I feel when it comes to furniture learning, there's like little one-off courses. And then there's like, the RISD type school.
Yeah.
And then there's like YouTube, right? And like, where does the Austin School of Furniture fit into that sort of spectrum?
Yeah, I wish I could say we were more of a RISD. I think that's an aspiration for us, but
Sure.
intensive program was a major step towards being
Ah.
a Rhode Island School of Design, or more relevant to us would be the Center of Furniture Craftsmanship or the James Kronoff School. Those are kind of our aspirational schools that we want to model ourselves after, where we are actually producing high-level furniture makers. And so we try to offer everything to get to that point. So that is I've never touched a tool class, and we offer those as well. We tend to always try to never dumb things down. We don't do cutting board classes, and there's not.
I got you.
But say first
epoxy pour classes. That's not you.
No, but the thing is, as someone who's never touched a tool, you can make a piece of furniture. It doesn't have to be a cutting board. There are lots of projects that you can make where you're learning more about milling and joinery as a first time, tool user and furniture maker. So we try to, even at a complete beginner level, have an instructor that is at a very, very high level with a shop that's run well and assistants to help, where you can run those classes to get those people through that first step, and then eventually may come a furniture maker down the road.
That's interesting. Who do you see as the biggest opportunity that you'd like to grow towards? Like, of your different customer types, like who do you think is the biggest opportunity?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, we definitely have a really good local market, which is probably our biggest revenue generator at this point. So building that more is definitely a goal. But I think there's a core group of woodworkers out there that travel to all the different schools for different instructors. So I still think there's a lot of room for us to grow when people make the decision, okay, this year I can take 2 weeks off for vacation. So I'm going to take one school up here and then one school hopefully down here. And they would consider us as one of those places they might want to travel to.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of like in the woodpreneur community. I guess the thing that I found is like, you have a group of folks that have done it their whole life, right? Like they were raised by their dad and grandfather and that sort of stuff. And then you had folks that like picked it up, like they were handy, but they didn't really know what they were doing. Like they could figure stuff out, but they kind of learned by doing and got augmented by YouTube. Right. But the biggest thing that I found, or at least with the disconnect, as I talk to like furniture makers, furniture designers, is like really the instruction piece, right? Like the care and crafts, the care and detail and I want to say respect, or the honoring of true furniture making, I feel like it's kind of missing. Mm-hmm. And which is, when I think about like the School of Furniture, why I wanted to have you on, was just like, oh yeah, I want to understand, like, to go from zero to furniture making and teaching people like the actual steps and care from like a respected furniture maker. I was like, oh, it seems like a very accessible path for someone, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think
was that the aim?
Yeah. We want to provide as much of a resource for people to become a furniture maker in Austin, Central Texas, and beyond, if that's what they want to do. We also don't want to sugarcoat what being a full-time furniture maker looks like, and
Sure.
that it's something that you can actually do after one class or two
Yeah.
classes or so on. And I just put out a kind of documentary style video on our intensive, and where one of the students mentioned that the program not only taught her so much and made her more confident, but it also showed her that she had way more to learn to actually becoming a furniture maker, which I think is really true. It's a lifelong endeavor, and you're never actually done learning. You can always improve and get better. And I think that's part of the appeal of creating something from nothing, and each leg, each joint, each piece of furniture gets better and better as you go.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. So what do you have the capacity for in terms of your school? Like how many people can you have in a class?
We can do up to 12 and
Okay.
do 12 for most classes. Some are more rigorous or need special setups where we'll do less depending on what they need. And kind of the style of the class dictates that, whether there's an assistant. So we've kind of done calculations on what's the best scenario of a class. And it's usually, we never like to go past a 1-to-6 ratio. So if there's more than 6 students, if there's 7 students, we try to have an assistant. So you always get personal attention. So the teacher can walk around and the assistant can walk around. It's also great from a safety standpoint.
And like you said, you do have people that fly in for this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We just had a class not too long ago, and there's a student from Nova Scotia that was down here. We've had students from Mexico, and then kind of everywhere in between.
Everywhere in between. Yeah. Yeah. So you started talking about like the future, the vision for the whole thing. Like, could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. I think, the dream picture of what I started off with was essentially an ecosystem. It's more than just the school. It's everything from start to finish in terms of furniture making. And we're still building towards that, but it would be, where do you go to learn how to woodwork? Okay.
Yeah.
Now you have that a little bit of knowledge. Where do you buy the tools? And you can buy those tools here. And then where do you go to actually do that? You might live in an apartment. You need a place to do that. Where do you go when you want to start your own business and have a little bit of square footage that you rent?
Sure.
Where are you buying the lumber? So getting all of those in one place, something that we're working towards to kind of create that epicenter of furniture making. And we've done that in a bit. We have a retail store now, and we sell things online, and we work with one of our teachers that has an urban lumber yard that's here in town. So we work a lot with them, but
Cool.
still trying to figure out how we can get those together in one place.
Who's the retail person? I mean, the lumber person?
Chris Burns at Harvest Lumber Company.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, I don't know him. But yeah, that's cool. So you get a lot of your lumber from them?
We try if we can. They don't do enough of one type of dimensional lumber for us. So, they're
That's urban lumber.
it's Parks and Rec and development. Trees are coming down. The wood's gorgeous, and it always has a story, but
You just can't get consistency.
yeah, we need 1,000 board feet of one type of wood.
Yeah. And they all need to look the same.
Or close enough. And so we end up buying from a few different lumber yards when we order stuff, because 12 students building 12 pieces of furniture ends up being a lot of wood.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. What's the life lesson that you've learned through the whole process of building this? What's the entrepreneurial journey as a lesson that you would give to the Woodpreneur community?
Yeah, I think to me, my style of entrepreneurship is calculated risk and slow incremental growth. And so there are a lot more people out there that will take a lot more risk than I would. But I think thinking through all of the worst case scenarios and planning for those is definitely something that you would have to do. I mean, the pandemic was not really something that anybody was budgeting for in their kind of forecasting, but the ability to scale down and survive and then scale back up was one reason that we're still here. So I think taking small risks, expanding when you can, when it's very obvious that there is a demand and a need to expand, and you can grow whatever you're doing over time and get to where you want to get.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool. So how can people follow you, get in touch?
Yeah.
Take your classes.
Definitely take classes. You can find us at the austinschooloffurniture.com. We also have a whole online portal of videos, which is the Austin School of Furniture woodworkers.online. And then if you want to support us, we have a yearly fundraiser that's the Texas Woodworking Festival. And those tickets go on sale January 1st. And then the actual festival is in August. So we'd love for every woodworker in the whole kind of South to come out to that.
And is that festival something you put on or you're part of?
Yep. No, that's something I started. That was a meetup group of meetup groups that grew like crazy each year. And so in typical fashion of that festival, it was so big that there was just an unbelievable demand for a bigger event. And there's not really a way in Austin to go from small to medium event, because Austin's such a medium or such a event focused city that we're going really big. So we'll be at the Palmer Event Center, which is one of the
How many people go there?
several thousand. I mean, we've got 25,000 square feet on the expo hall plus 5,000 in the kind of educational theater. So it'll be big.
And this stuff you put together? You should have been talking about that. That's amazing too. Jeez.
Well, we can do a whole another episode.
You're an empire builder. That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, and maybe this is going back to your previous question about entrepreneurship, is just listen. What are people telling you? And
that's literally how I started. I started because the Woodpreneur communities kept telling me that nobody knows what we do. Nobody. So I was like, all right, so they need marketing and advertising services. Like that's what they need. Yeah. Your customers will tell you what they will pay for.
Yeah, exactly. And so, that meetup group that I started, I realized that there were other meetup groups, like a wood turners group or a wood carving group, and none of them ever knew about each other. So I asked, hey, let's have one meetup for all the meetups each year. And that's how it started. And we maxed out the brewery that we met at. And everybody's like, hey, this is cool. We should do another woodworking event like this and maybe have a lumber yard or a tool sale. And so we did it again. And it was too big. And we probably went past fire code. So bigger to an event venue. And there was a 7-block long line to get into the event, which is...
Wow. And this is in Austin?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you said how many people will come to this thing?
So we were at about 1,500 last year. And so we're shooting for...
one day.
Over one day, yeah.
You kidding me? That's incredible. Like you had music and beer and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So then we're going to 2 days. It's at Palmer Event Center, which is air conditioned because that was a big issue last year. But we're bringing in guest speakers and we have a whole theater. We'll do demos. There's tool manufacturers, lumber yards. We've got live music.
I'm in. Count me in.
Okay.
Yeah. When is it? August
26th and 27th.
That's my birthday. I guess I'm going to be on Austin on my birthday.
Yeah. Well, the weather is great here in August.
Yeah.
You'll love it.
I just got to tell my wife that we're going to Austin. That's awesome, man. Dude, it was really great. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. You sharing your story. But yeah, everybody check out Austin School of Furniture. And Austin, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Thanks so much for listening to the Woodpreneur podcast, the #1 podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. If you like what you heard, please give us a 5-star rating and review. You can also tap into our community by visiting woodpreneurlife.com. Once again, that's woodpreneurlife.com. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next episode.